Lesson 3.2 Functions. In this lesson, you'll learn to evaluate functions and complete input-output tables. Before we begin, we need to define two vocabulary words. The first one is function. Please copy these notes into your notebook as we go through them. A function is a rule, so it's a rule or an equation, where every input has one output. So every input has one output. A function rule is the equation that describes the function. So it's the equation that describes the function. Example 2 says Juan begins his exercise walk from his friend's house, which is 50 meters from his own house. The function d equals 3t plus 50 gives the distance d in meters after t seconds that Juan is from his own house while walking. Find the output d for the input t equals 10. So if we look back at this equation, it looks like there's a whole lot, but there really isn't. It says Juan begins his exercise walk from his friend's house, which is 50 meters from his own house. The function d equals 3t plus 50 gives you the distance in meters after t seconds. So this equation is the equation that we're looking for. Then basically what it tells us to do is find the output d, or find d when t equals 10. So all I have to do is I plug in 10 for t and solve for d. So I have d equals 3 times 10, because I'm plugging 10 in where d was, plus 50. This is your function rule. So I solve, I get d equals 30 plus 50, or 80, and it's a distance measurement in meters, so it's 80 meters. Make sure that you add the units to your answer so you know what you're talking about. The function t equals 1/2 m minus 12 gives the temperature T in a container in degrees Celsius m minutes before, at the start, and during an experiment. Use the function to make an input-output table for m equals -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Looking at this problem, there's a lot of information in here that we really don't need. The only thing that we really need is this part here where it says the function t equals 1/2 m minus 12. That gives us, that's our function rule. That's what we want. All this other stuff here is fine, but we really don't need it. So we're going to create a input-output table. And you can do it one of two ways. You can do it vertically or horizontally. I'm going to do it horizontally just because of the time and the space that I have. So I'm going to make my input my m, that's what I'm inputting, and my output is my t. So m is my minutes and t is my time. And they tell you exactly what to input. You're going to input -2, -1, 0, 1, and don't forget the 2. So if I plug -2 into my equation, all I'm doing is taking -2 and plugging it in for m. So half of -2 is -1, minus 12 gives me -13. Then I'm going to plug in -1. Plug -1 in. -1 times 1/2 is -1/2, minus 12 is -12 and a half. Then I'm going to plug 0 in. That's an easy one. 1/2 times 0 is 0, and then I'm going to subtract 12, so I get -12. Then I'm going to plug 2 in. and I get half of 2 is 1, minus 12 is negative 11. Example 3 says complete the table of input-output pairs for the function rule D equals 0.05C, where D represents the deposit in dollars and C represents the number of containers. Again, we really don't need to worry about this part here. All we need to worry about is our function rule, which is what they give us right here. So we're going to create a table, and this time I'm going to do it vertically. And my input is going to be the number of containers, and my output is going to be how much it costs. So the examples they give you are 6, 12, and 24. So if I plug 6 into my equation, I get 0.05 times 6. And if I plug that into a calculator, I get 0.3. And if I plug in 12, I get 0.05 times 12. And that gives me 0.6. And then 24, if I take 0.05 times 24, that gives me 1.2. Now, here's your chance to show me what you know. There are 4 questions. I want you to read the questions and answer them in your notebook. Pause the recording. After you answer them, hit play and check your answers. Number 1 says, how are function and function rule related? A function rule is an equation that describes the function. So the rule describes the function. Number 2, explain how to evaluate a function for a given input value. To evaluate, you just substitute. The value for its variable. So you just take whatever they give you, plug it in for the variable. Number 3, if the input value is negative, is the output value of f equals negative 4z plus 12 always positive or negative? It's going to be always positive. And the reason is if you take a negative and you plug it in for z, a negative times a negative, you have negative 4 times a negative z is always going to give you a positive, and then you're going to add 12 to it. And number 4 says to create an input-output table of the function. So I'm going to do mine horizontally. My input is going to be n. My output is going to be f. And then whatever you chose. I chose 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if I plug 0 in, I get 3. If I plug 1 in, I get 4. If I plug 2 in, I get 5. And 3, I get 6.